Hello, RICCL Group. Sorry I can't be there today. This is Paul Ura, the National Weather Service office in Austin, San Antonio. I want to do a quick briefing for the winter products that we may or may not have to issue this particular winter season, as well as the winter outlook. Hopefully you PIOs can use some of this information. There's going to be some new products that we talk about, and then toward the very end, we'll talk about what the official forecast is for the winter time. But as you can imagine, that's rather difficult to pinpoint too much, especially this far out. A little bit of recap of what happened last winter. Across Austin Mabry, on the west side there of town, about 8 days below freezing. Austin Bergstrom had 24 days below freezing. So not too crazy. There was one particular week of an Arctic front in mid-January that brought some really cold wind chills, brought a winter weather advisory, some hard freezes, but overall only light precipitation occurred. Of interest was something kind of unique. Doesn't happen all the time, but we actually had a little bit of what we think was light lake effect snow, believe it or not, on the east side of Austin around Decker Lake by the airport. It could have also been what we call industrial enhanced snow, meaning that moisture from a power plant or moisture from a manufacturing facility could have aided in that light snow development. So just kind of unique, but that kind of stuff does occasionally happen. Okay, let's talk about some of the products that we sometimes have to issue during our winter seasons. Winter weather advisories we'll talk about, winter storm warnings, and ice storm warnings. I will mention also that as we move forward, and we'll talk about some of the criteria that the Weather Service office here issues these products with, we'll have some set criteria, but whenever we get reports of significant road closures, significant number of traffic accidents, those sort of impacts can be reasons for us to upgrade or issue one of our winter products. So it's not just about how much ice is accumulating or how much snow is on the ground. A lot of times, and most times, it's actually the impacts that we're actually getting from those different weather events. The winter weather advisory is our most common winter product that we may or may not have to issue during a winter season. At least once or twice, probably per winter season, we have to issue a winter weather advisory. Very simply, travel impacts are minimal. The roads that are typically impacted are the ones that have overpasses, which, as you know, are typically the very first roads that get iced up and have slick spots. When we coordinate these sort of products with our neighboring Weather Service offices, the amount of ice that we're expecting is typically less than 1/8 of an inch. The amount of snow that we're expecting is typically less than 2 inches, and the amount of sleet that we're expecting is typically less than 1/2 inch. So not very much overall with precipitation. But again, like I said, if we have just a little bit of ice happening during Friday rush hour in Austin region or in a big metropolitan area, that may be enough just to issue a winter storm warning. Now, typically it isn't. Typically we need a lot more different accumulations of both ice and snow and sleet to make it up to our criteria for issuing a winter storm warning. And that is because those then typically create very significant travel impacts, meaning that even the well-traveled roads like the interstates are significantly getting impacted. So as you can imagine, what that means is closures of roads, closures of schools, closures of businesses, because typically travel is too dangerous for people to get out on the road. We can easily go through an entire winter season without having to issue a winter storm watch or warning, but they are there. Think over the last 3 or 4 winters, our big ice storm in Austin, our big winter storm Uri, or what I call Snowmageddon back in 2021, those were impactful winter storms across the entire region. So just think of, if there's a little bit of effect, winter weather advisory. If there's a lot of impact, then that's typically winter storm warning. If we know we're expecting a lot of freezing rain accumulation, and by a lot, I mean greater than or equal to 1/4 inch, where we'll have widespread power outages, we'll maybe issuing a ice storm warning. Is it about the same of a winter storm warning? Yes, it is. It just brings a little bit more impact using the term ice storm warning, letting people know that the widespread power outages are likely at this point. Something very unique to this portion of Texas, since we do have live oak trees, the live oak trees keep their leaves most of the year. What that means is that if you have an ice storm, or if you have significant ice forming, they will accumulate on the leaves. That adds more weight to the branches. The branches break. And so because we have live oak trees, we tend to get a lot more damage and quicker damage with accumulating ice than maybe other portions of the state. So if it's 48 hours out and we're thinking that we're going to have considerable travel problems and the confidence is medium, maybe we'll go with a winter storm watch. That's your preparation time. That's where the messaging should be getting pushed out from all the PIOs and the cities and the counties, et cetera. And then within that 12 and 36 hour window, again, if we're expecting considerable travel problems, we'll probably upgrade to a winter storm warning. If we're just expecting a little bit of ice or snow, where we think that travel will just be difficult and not necessarily hard or impossible, then maybe we'll just go with a winter weather advisory. So it's kind of be aware that there's going to be some issues. Again, with any of these sort of situations, if you don't have to be out on the roads in South Central Texas during winter weather, please don't be out on the road in South Central Texas during winter weather. There are a couple of new products that we're issuing this winter season across the United States, not just us. It's a cold weather advisory and extreme cold watch or warning. So why are we doing this? Well, over the past several years, through social science, talking to partners, the general public, it is very understood that a lot of our products people don't understand. So we're trying to simplify them. So what we have done is we've taken away the wind chill warnings and wind chill advisories and cold warnings and extreme cold watches, and we're consolidating them all to just a few products. Most important to us is to know that cold is cold. It doesn't matter if it's just the air temperature or if it happens to be with the wind, which we consider wind chill. Cold is cold. So the first new product, let's talk about cold weather advisory. You see on the map there in the one color of kind of the darker purple, 15 degrees. In the hill country, including metro Austin areas, 15 degrees is our criteria that if we have an air temperature or a wind chill temperature that is expected to drop below or at 15 degrees for any significant time, typically an hour or two at least, we would issue a cold weather advisory. For the rest of South Central Texas, basically south of Austin in particular, down to San Antonio, 20 degrees. So yes, it is a different criteria across portions of South Central Texas. Again, this can be air temperature or the wind chill value. As we get to the extreme cold warning criteria, these are colder temperatures. If we're expecting basically 5 degrees or below in the hill country in the Austin area or 10 degrees elsewhere in South Central Texas, we would be issuing an extreme cold warning. We do issue freeze warnings occasionally, typically in the beginning portion of the winter season. The freeze warnings are really designed around agriculture users. We don't have a lot of necessarily winter type agriculture here in South Central Texas. That's typically the valley, closer to the coast, other portions of the Southeast United States. So what we do, and it's been our policy for years and years, we will issue a first freeze warning when the temperatures are expected to drop below freezing for the winter season. This gives everybody in the hill country, Austin, San Antonio, and our entire region a heads up that, look, winter is here. All those times that you've had all your freeze sensitive plants outside, okay, now starts the time where you need to pay attention to the forecasted temperatures every morning to see if you have to move the plants in and out or back and forth, okay? So we do it once. Once there's a killing freeze across that county, we will discontinue issuing freeze warnings. Occasionally, you will hear the term hard freeze. The official definition for what a hard freeze is a temperature at or below 28 degrees. This actually happens quite often here. So this doesn't have the same impact it does like it says like in Florida. But we will use that term a hard freeze in our terminology in our weather discussions, our winter products like the cold weather advisories and these new extreme cold warnings. The hard freeze terminology typically means that there's pretty decent chances then of frozen pipes, plant and tree damage, across the region like that. Most of our areas can handle temperatures in the 20s. It's really typically when we drop below into the teens for multiple hours, typically sometimes even more than 24, 36, 48 hours of below freezing temperatures, is when we really start to get those issues with frozen pipes and water breakages, that kind of thing. One thing too that I'd like to discuss is the importance of properly measuring ice accumulation. We'll talk about flat ice first on the right-hand side of the screen. When ice accumulates on, let's say, a table outside or a bench, we consider that flat ice. The ice accumulates on a flat surface. Very easy to measure. Take out a measuring stick of some sort and literally measure the depth and the thickness of the ice. That's what you report back. For radial ice, or ice that's accumulating on a pole or on a branch, it will differ depending on how fast the wind is blowing. If the wind is not blowing very fast, then you may have kind of equal accumulation on both sides of the branch or pole. But if the wind is blowing quite strong, like the picture on the right there, you will see not a lot of accumulation on one side, but a lot of accumulation on the other side. To officially measure ice on a branch of a tree or a stick or something, you typically take a measurement on both sides and take the average, and that's what it is. Here's the website that I was talking about, weather.gov/WRN/winter_safety. There are social media plans, infographics, videos, presentations, and even Spanish content on this website. So if you like to send out information prior to winter weather, this is a great website to take some of those graphics off of there. You can use anything you want on here. It's produced by the National Weather Service and NOAA. There is no copyright stuff on it, so go ahead and use it as much as you like. And now briefly, what is the forecast for this winter? It's tough. It's tough to figure out exactly how bad a winter is going to be. Climatology-wise, though, they are thinking because we are going to be in La Nina conditions, that typically lends itself to a warmer and drier fall and winter. So that is what this seasonal temperature outlook is showing for us. The likelihood of above normal temperatures is kind of up there in that 40, 50, 60% range for the southern portion of Texas. And with that will come a below chance for having precipitation, so drier than normal, think of it that way. This is not too uncommon for La Nina conditions. I will also tell you that despite what you just saw with warmer temperatures expected and below precipitation, that does not mean that we cannot have a significant ice storm. In fact, over the past several winters where we've had pretty impactful winter storms just for about a week of the winter, the rest of the winter was actually warm and dry, except for that week or two that we had the significant ice storm or the Snowmageddon event back in 2021. So it's kind of hard to tell exactly when those sort of systems are going to be hitting. So preparing is the key. And I'm going to wrap it up talking about our drought and our persistence of drought. With the lack of rainfall that's expected this winter, do expect that the drought will persist and actually develop possibly even more so in some of our region. And that, of course, will also likely bring in some enhanced fire conditions as well. As we get cold fronts to come through, the winds will start to increase. If we do not have a lot of significant rain over the next couple of months, that will lead to a potential higher than normal sort of fire potential across the winter months for our region of Texas. So normally I get to answer some questions, but since I'm technically not there, you will have to pass those questions along to me via email, paul.ura@noaa.gov, or you can always call me. I can always answer your questions straight on the phone. So again, sorry I couldn't be there today, but hopefully you enjoy the presentation and good luck this winter season.